The silence in my kitchen is deafening as I stare at the brown cardboard box sitting on the counter, my heart pounding against my chest. It's been 3 days since I mustered up the courage to open the package that arrived unexpectedly, and I still can't wrap my mind around its contents. Inside was a leather-bound diary and a small digital voice recorder, both belonging to my daughter Leela. But that's not what has my stomach in knots and my thoughts spiraling out of control. It's the note that accompanied them, written in Lila's unmistakable handwriting. Mom, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I'm sorry for leaving you like this, but I couldn't bear the pain any longer. The truth about my life and my marriage is within these pages and recordings. I hope they bring you the closure I couldn't find. Love always, Leela. Gone? What does she mean? Gone? My beautiful, vibrant daughter, who had her whole life ahead of her, couldn't possibly be. I shake my head, trying to dislodge the thought. No, there has to be some mistake. Lila would never. But even as I try to deny it, deep down, I know it's true. The sinking feeling in my gut tells me that my worst fear has come to pass. With trembling hands, I reach for the diary and flip it open to the first page. As I begin to read, Lila's voice fills my head, as if she's standing right beside me, whispering her secrets. I don't know how much longer I can keep up this facade. Derek, the man I thought I knew, the man I married, he's not who I thought he was. He's controlling, manipulative, and I fear he's involved in something sinister. I'm scared, Mom. I don't know what to do or who to turn to. My vision blurs with tears as I continue reading, each page revealing a new layer of my daughter's hidden torment. The man she loved, the man I welcomed into our family, is nothing but a monster in disguise. As I reach the final entry, dated just 2 weeks ago, my heart shatters into a million pieces. I can't take it anymore. The constant fear, the isolation, the pain. It's too much. I've tried to be strong, but I'm at my breaking point. I'm sorry, Mom. I love you, and I hope someday you can forgive me. A gut-wrenching sob escapes my throat as the reality of what I've just read sinks in. My daughter, my precious Lila, took her own life to escape the hell her husband put her through. Anger, white-hot and all-consuming, surges through my veins. Derek, that bastard, drove my daughter to this. He destroyed her, piece by piece, until she couldn't bear to live another day. I clench my fists, my nails digging into my palms as a newfound determination takes hold. I will not let my daughter's death be in vain. I will uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Derek will pay for what he's done. Wiping away my tears, I reach for the digital recorder and press play. Lila's voice, tinged with fear and desperation, fills the room. Derek, please, you're hurting me. Why are you doing this? I thought you loved me. The recording ends abruptly, and I'm left in silence once again. But in my mind, a plan begins to take shape. I will retrace Lila's steps, unravel the web of lies and deceit that Derek has spun, and bring him to justice. I owe it to my daughter, to the memory of the beautiful, loving soul she was. I will not rest until the truth is exposed and Derek faces the consequences of his actions. With a heavy heart but an unwavering resolve, I tuck the diary and recorder back into the box and close the lid. It's time to get to work. For Lila, for the justice she deserves. The sun is barely peeking through the curtains when I find myself hunched over my laptop, a steaming mug of coffee beside me. It's been days since I discovered Lila's diary and the truth about her marriage, and I haven't been able to sleep more than a few hours at a time. Every time I close my eyes, I see her face, hear her voice pleading for help. I've been combing through her social media accounts, her emails, anything that might give me a clue as to what really happened. It's not easy, but I'm determined to piece together the puzzle of her life. A notification pops up on my screen, and my heart nearly stops. It's a message from Emily, Lila's best friend's childhood. We haven't spoken in months. Not since the funeral. Marion, I know it's been a while, but I need to talk to you. It's about Leela. Can we meet? My fingers tremble as I type out a response, agreeing to meet her at a nearby cafe. I grab my coat and keys, my mind racing with questions. An hour later, I'm sitting across from Emily, her eyes red-rimmed and her hands clutching a cup of tea. She takes a deep breath before speaking. Marion, there's something you need to know about Derek. He was horrible to Lila at work. He was her supervisor, but he used his position to control her, to make her life miserable. I feel my stomach drop, my worst fears confirmed. What do you mean? What did he do? Emily's voice shakes as she recounts the stories Lila told her. The constant criticism, the belittling remarks, the threats to her career if she didn't comply with his demands. It's a nightmare come to life. She was so scared, Marian, she didn't know what to do. He had so much power over her, and she felt trapped. I tried to convince her to leave him, to report him to HR, but she was terrified of what he might do. Tears stream down my face as I listen, my heart breaking for my daughter. How could I not have seen it? How could I have let this happen? Emily reaches across the table and takes my hand. There's more. I think Derek was involved in something illegal at work. Lila overheard him talking on the phone one night, something about money laundering and offshore accounts. She was going to go to the authorities, but then she trails off, unable to finish the sentence. We both know how the story ends. I take a deep breath, my mind reeling with this new information. Derek wasn't just a monster at home, he was a criminal, and he drove my daughter to take her own life. I thank Emily for her courage in coming forward, and promise to keep her updated on my investigation. As I leave the cafe, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. I will not rest until I have exposed Derek for the vile creature he is. My next stop is Lila's former workplace. I know it's a long shot, but I have to try. I approach the receptionist, my heart pounding in my chest. I'm here to see Derek Voss. It's urgent. The receptionist gives me a wary look but nods and picks up the phone. A few moments later, she hangs up and turns to me. I'm sorry, but Mr. Voss is not available. He's in a meeting. I lean in closer, my voice low and insistent. Please, it's about his wife. I'm her mother, and I need to speak with him. It can't wait. The receptionist hesitates for a moment before nodding and picking up the phone again. I wait, my palms sweating and my stomach in knots. Finally, she hangs up and turns to me. He'll see you now. His office is down the hall, last door on the right. I take a deep breath and make my way down the hall, my heart racing with every step. I have no idea what I'm going to say to him, but I know I have to confront him. For Lila, for the truth. I reach for the door handle, my hand shaking. This is it, the moment of truth. I take one last deep breath and turn the handle, stepping into the lion's den. Derek's office is sleek and modern, all glass and chrome. He sits behind a large mahogany desk, his face a mask of surprise and confusion as I enter. Marian, what are you doing here? He asks, rising from his chair. I don't bother with pleasantries. I know what you did to Lila. I know about the harassment, the threats, and I know about your illegal activities. His eyes widen for a moment before he regains his composure. I don't know what you're talking about. Lila and I had our problems, but I loved her. I would never hurt her. I slam my hands on the desk, leaning forward until I'm inches from his face. Don't lie to me, Derek. I have proof. Emails, recordings, witness statements. You made her life a living hell, and you drove her to take her own life. He steps back, his hands raised in a gesture of surrender. Marian, please, let's talk about this rationally. I know you're grieving, but you're not thinking clearly. I let out a humorless laugh. Oh, I'm thinking very clearly. For the first time in months, I see you for exactly what you are, a monster. He shakes his head, his expression one of pity. I'm sorry you feel that way, Marian, but I'm not the villain here. Lila had her own demons, her own struggles. I tried to help her, but she pushed me away. I feel my anger rising, hot and fierce. You're a liar and a coward, Derek. You preyed on her vulnerabilities, you manipulated her, and you destroyed her. And for what? Money? Power? Your own twisted satisfaction? He opens his mouth to respond, but I cut him off. I don't want to hear your excuses. I want justice for my daughter, and I will not rest until I see you behind bars. I turn to leave, but he calls out after me. Marian, wait, let's talk about this. We can work something out. I pause at the door, my hand on the handle. There's nothing to work out, Derek. You're going to pay for what you did to Lila, one way or another. I walk out of his office, my heart racing and my mind reeling. I know I'm in over my head, that Derek is a powerful man with connections and resources, but I also know that I can't do this alone. That's when I remember Jonah, Lila's old friend from law school. He was always the level-headed one, the voice of reason. If anyone can help me navigate this legal minefield, it's him. I pull out my phone and dial his number, my fingers shaking slightly. He answers on the second ring. Marion, hi. What's going on? I take a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. Jonah, I need your help. It's about Lila and Derek. There's a pause on the other end of the line. What about them? I close my eyes, fighting back the tears. Derek killed her, Jonah. Maybe not with his own hands, but he drove her to it. He harassed her, threatened her, made her life a living hell, and I have proof. Another pause, longer this time. Okay, Marion, I'm listening. Tell me everything. And so I do. I pour out the whole sordid story, from the diary to the recordings to my confrontation with Derek. By the time I'm finished, I'm emotionally drained, but more determined than ever. I need your help, Jonah. I can't do this alone. Derek is too powerful, too connected, but with your legal expertise and my evidence, we can bring him down. We can get justice for Lila. Jonah is silent for a long moment, and I hold my breath, waiting for his response. I'm in, Marion. Let's nail this bastard to the wall. I feel a rush of relief and gratitude. With Jonah on my side, I know we can do this. We can make Derek pay for what he did to my daughter. Thank you, Jonah. Thank you for believing in me, for fighting for Lila. Of course, Marion. She was my friend too, and no one deserves what happened to her. We'll make this right. I promise. I hang up the phone, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and determination. Derek may think he's untouchable, but he's about to learn the hard way that a mother's love knows no bounds, and when it comes to my daughter, I will move heaven and earth to get justice. The next few days are a blur of activity. Jonah and I meet up to go over the evidence I've gathered, poring over emails and listening to the recordings Lila left behind. It's painful, reliving her trauma, but I know it's necessary if we want to bring Derek to justice. We need more, Jonah says, rubbing his eyes. This is a good start, but it's not enough to take him down. We need concrete proof of his illegal activities at work. I nod, my mind racing. What about surveillance? If we can catch him in the act, that would be hard to deny. So Jonah considers this for a moment. It's risky, but it might be our best shot. I know a guy who can set us up with some discreet cameras and microphones. We'll have to be careful, though. If Derek catches on, it could all fall apart. I take a deep breath, steeling myself. I'm willing to take that risk, for Lila. And so we put our plan into motion. Jonah's contact comes through with the surveillance equipment, and we spend hours strategizing on how to plant it in Derek's office without getting caught. Finally, the day arrives. I walk into Derek's workplace, my heart pounding in my chest. I know I only have a small window of time to get in and out before he returns from his lunch meeting. I make my way to his office, trying to look as inconspicuous as possible. The door is locked, but I came prepared. With shaking hands, I pull out the lock-picking kit Jonah gave me and get to work. It takes longer than I anticipated, and I can feel the sweat beading on my forehead. But finally, I hear the click of the lock, and the door swings open. I move quickly, placing the cameras and microphones in strategic locations around the room. I'm just about to leave when I hear voices in the hallway. My heart stops. It's Derek, and he's heading this way. I look around frantically, trying to find a place to hide. There's a small supply closet in the corner, and I rush over to it, slipping inside just as the door to the office opens. I hold my breath, trying to slow my racing heart. I can hear Derek talking on the phone, his voice muffled through the closet door. I told you I'll have the money by the end of the week. No, I don't care how you get it. Just make it happen. There's a pause, and then he speaks again, his tone more menacing. Listen, I've got a lot riding on this deal. If it falls through, there will be consequences, and trust me, you don't want to know what those consequences are. I feel a chill run down my spine. This is it. This is the proof we need. I wait until I hear Derek leave before I emerge from the closet, my legs shaking. I quickly finish placing the last of the surveillance equipment and then slip out of the office, my heart still racing. I meet up with Jonah back at his place, and we quickly download the footage from the cameras. What we see is damning. Derek, meeting with shady characters, discussing large sums of money and offshore accounts. It's all there, in black and white. We got him, Jonah says, a grim smile on his face. This is enough to put him away for a long time. But as we're going through the footage, we stumble upon something else. A conversation between Derek and one of his associates, discussing his plans to flee the country. I've got a private jet lined up, Derek says. I'll be gone before anyone even knows what happened. My blood runs cold. If Derek gets away, all of this will have been for nothing. We'll never get justice for Lila. We have to move fast, I say, my voice shaking. We can't let him escape. Jonah nods, his expression serious. I'll make some calls, see if we can get the authorities involved. But Marion, you need to be prepared. Once we go down this road, there's no turning back. I take a deep breath, my resolve hardening. I'm ready. Let's take this bastard down. The next morning, I wake up with a sense of urgency. We need to act fast if we want to catch Derek before he disappears. I call up some of my late husband's old contacts in law enforcement, hoping they can help us track Derek's movements without tipping him off. To my relief, they agree to help. They promise to keep an eye on his bank accounts and travel plans, and to let us know if he makes any suspicious moves. With that taken care of, Jonah and I turn our attention to the upcoming industry conference. It's the perfect opportunity to expose Derek in front of his colleagues and the media. We spend the next few days preparing, gathering all the evidence we have, and putting together a solid case. It's exhausting work, but I feel a sense of purpose that I haven't felt in months. Finally, the day of the conference arrives. Jonah and I arrive early, scoping out the venue and setting up our equipment. We've arranged for a small press conference in one of the side rooms, where we plan to present our evidence to a select group of journalists. As the day goes on, I keep a close eye on Derek. He's schmoozing with his colleagues, acting like he doesn't have a care in the world. It makes my blood boil, knowing what he's done. Finally, it's time for our press conference. Jonah and I take the stage, our hearts pounding. I take a deep breath and begin to speak. Thank you all for coming. My name is Marion Fraser, and I'm here today to expose a criminal hiding in plain sight. I see Derek's face in the crowd, his expression one of confusion and anger. But I don't let it faze me. I press on, laying out the evidence we've gathered piece by piece. The emails, the recordings, the surveillance footage, it's all there, painting a damning picture of a man who thought he was above the law. As I speak, I see the journalists' faces change from skepticism to shock to outrage. They scribble furiously in their notebooks, their cameras flashing. And then, just as I'm about to wrap up, Derek stands up and starts shouting, "This is ridiculous. These accusations are completely baseless. I'm an honest businessman, and I won't stand for this slander." But even as he speaks, I can see the panic in his eyes. He knows we have him cornered. Jonah steps forward, his voice calm but firm. "Mr. Voss, we have evidence that you've been involved in financial fraud and workplace harassment. We also have reason to believe that you're planning to flee the country to avoid prosecution." Derek's face goes white. He looks around wildly, as if searching for an escape route. But it's too late. The doors to the room burst open, and a team of law enforcement officers rush in. They surround Derek, their guns drawn. "Derek Voss, you're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and harassment. You have the right to remain silent." As they read him his rights, I feel a sense of relief wash over me. It's over. We did it. The journalists are in a frenzy, shouting questions and snapping photos, but I tune them out, focusing on the sight of Derek being led away in handcuffs. Jonah puts a hand on my shoulder, squeezing gently. "You did it, Marion. You got justice for Lila." I nod, tears welling up in my eyes. I just wish she was here to see it. As we leave the conference room, I feel a sense of exhaustion and elation. It's been a long, hard road, but we finally made it to the end. I know there will be more battles ahead, more challenges to face. But for now, I allow myself a moment of triumph. For Lila, for myself, for all the victims who never got to see their abusers brought to justice. We may not be able to change the past, but we can fight for a better future. And that's exactly what I plan to do, one day at a time. The aftermath of Derek's arrest is a media circus. Reporters hound me for interviews, wanting to know every detail of the story. I do my best to keep a low profile, focusing on the legal proceedings and letting Jonah handle the press. But even as the court case moves forward, I can't shake the feeling that there's more to the story. I keep thinking back to Lila's diary, to the pain and fear she expressed in those pages. I know Derek is responsible for her death, but I need to hear it from his own lips. I need him to admit what he did. So when Jonah tells me that Derek is willing to meet with me, I jump at the chance. I know it's a risk, that he could try to manipulate me or twist the truth. But I have to take that chance for Lila's sake. The meeting takes place in a small, windowless room at the jail. Derek is brought in, his hands and feet shackled. He looks thinner than the last time I saw him, his face gaunt and his eyes hollow. He sits down across from me, his expression wary. "What do you want, Marion?" I take a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I want the truth, Derek. I want you to admit what you did to Lila." He scoffs, shaking his head. "I already told you I didn't do anything. Lila was troubled. Sincere. She had her own issues. I tried to help her, but she wouldn't let me." I feel my anger rising, hot and fierce. "Don't give me that bullshit, Derek. I know what you did. I have proof. You harassed her, you threatened her, you made her life a living hell." He leans back in his chair, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "You don't know anything, Marion. You think you have it all figured out, but you don't. Lila was weak. She couldn't handle the pressure. That's not my fault." I slam my hand down on the table, making him flinch. "Shut up. Just shut up and listen to me. Lila was not weak. She was strong and brave, and she deserved so much better than you. You broke her, Derek. You broke her spirit and her heart, and you drove her to take her own life." I see a flicker of something in his eyes, a hint of remorse or guilt. But it's gone just as quickly, replaced by a cold, hard stare. "You want the truth, Marion? Fine, I'll give you the truth. Yes, I was hard on Lila at work. Yes, I pushed her to be better, to work harder. But that's because I knew she had potential. I was trying to help her, to make her stronger." I shake my head in disbelief. "You call that helping? You call that making her stronger? You destroyed her, Derek. You took everything that was good and bright about her, and you crushed it." He leans forward, his face inches from mine. "You know what, Marion? Maybe you're right. Maybe I did push her too hard. Maybe I did contribute to her breakdown. But let me ask you this. Where were you when she needed help? Where were you when she was crying herself to sleep every night, when she was popping pills just to get through the day? You were too busy with your own life to notice what was happening right under your nose." I feel like I've been slapped. His words cut deep, hitting on the guilt and regret that I've been carrying around for months. But I won't let him see that. I won't give him the satisfaction. I stand up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This is on you, Derek. Lila's death, the pain she went through, that's all on you. And now the world knows it too. You're going to pay for what you did, one way or another." I turn to leave, but his voice stops me. "You think this is over, Marion? You think you've won? Think again. I have powerful friends, people who will make sure I never see the inside of a jail cell. And when I get out, I'm coming for you and everyone else who tried to bring me down." I don't turn around. I don't give him the chance to see the fear in my eyes. I just keep walking, my head held high. This isn't over, not by a long shot. But for now, I'll take the victory where I can get it. For Lila, for justice, for the chance to make things right. In the weeks following Derek's arrest, the case against him builds steadily. The evidence we gathered, along with testimony from his victims and colleagues, paints a damning picture of a man who abused his power and his position. I attend every court hearing, watching as Derek's lawyers try to spin the story in his favor. They claim that he's being unfairly targeted, that the charges against him are baseless and politically motivated. But the truth is undeniable. The emails, the recordings, the witness statements. They all point to a pattern of harassment and abuse that stretches back years. And then there's the financial fraud. As the investigators dig deeper into Derek's business dealings, they uncover a web of shell companies and offshore accounts, all designed to hide his ill-gotten gains. It's clear that Derek wasn't just a bully and a harasser. He was a criminal, through and through. The day of the verdict arrives, and I'm in the courtroom, my heart pounding in my chest. Jonah is beside me, his hand resting reassuringly on my arm. The judge reads out the charges, his voice solemn and grave. Embezzlement, fraud, harassment, and a host of other crimes, all adding up to a life sentence in prison. I watch as Derek's face pales, his eyes widening in shock and disbelief. He tries to stand up to protest, but the bailiffs force him back down into his seat. The judge bangs his gavel, and it's over. Derek is led away in handcuffs, his head bowed and his shoulders slumped. I feel a rush of emotion, relief, satisfaction, and a deep, aching sadness. Lila is gone, and nothing can bring her back. But at least now, her tormentor is facing justice. The media descends on the courthouse steps, clamoring for a statement. I take a deep breath and step forward, my voice shaking but clear. Today, justice was served. Derek Voss is a monster who preyed on the vulnerable and the defenseless. He destroyed lives and shattered families, all in the name of his own greed and ego. But now, he's been exposed for what he truly is. He'll spend the rest of his life behind bars, paying for his crimes. The reporters shout questions, but I ignore them. I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing it for Lila, and for all the other victims who never got to see their abusers brought to justice. As I walk away from the courthouse, I feel a sense of emptiness. The fight is over, but the pain lingers on. In the days and weeks that follow, I watch as Derek's life unravels. His assets are seized, his business empire crumbles, and his reputation is left in tatters. His professional licenses are revoked, and he's expelled from the industry organizations that once welcomed him with open arms. Even his so-called friends and allies abandon him, eager to distance themselves from the scandal and the shame. It's a fitting end for a man who thought he was untouchable, who believed that his wealth and his power would protect him from the consequences of his actions. But as I sit in my quiet house, surrounded by the memories of my daughter, I find little comfort in his downfall. Lila is still gone, and the hole she left in my heart will never be filled. The pain of losing her, of knowing that I failed to protect her when she needed me most, is a burden I will carry for the rest of my life. But I also know that I have to keep going, to find a way to honor her memory and to make sure that her story is never forgotten. So I pour myself into my work, into advocating for victims of abuse and harassment. I speak out against the culture of silence and complicity that allows monsters like Derek to thrive. And every day, I wake up and I keep fighting. For Lila, for myself, and for all the other daughters and mothers and sisters out there who are still waiting for justice. It's not easy, and there are days when the pain and the grief threaten to overwhelm me. But I know that I have to keep going, to keep pushing forward, because that's what Lila would have wanted. And that's the only way I know how to honor her memory. The months after Derek's conviction are a blur of activity. There are interviews to give, speeches to make, and a never-ending stream of people who want to hear Lila's story. It's exhausting, but it's also strangely cathartic. Every time I tell her story, I feel like I'm keeping her memory alive, like I'm giving voice to the pain and the suffering that she endured. But I know that I can't keep going like this forever. I need to find a way to channel my grief and my anger into something productive, something that will make a real difference in the world. That's when I decide to start the Lila Fraser Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting victims of workplace harassment and abuse. I pour all of my energy into getting the foundation off the ground, working long hours, and tapping into every resource and contact I have. It's not easy, but slowly, surely, things start to take shape. We launch a website and a hotline offering support and resources to anyone who needs them. We partner with law firms and advocacy groups working to change the laws and the culture that allow abuse to flourish in the workplace. And we tell stories of survivors, of heroes, of ordinary people who found the courage to stand up and speak out against their abusers. It's hard work, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Every time I hear from someone who says that the foundation has helped them, that they feel seen and heard and supported, I know that I'm doing something meaningful. But the real test comes when we organize our first big event, a community gathering to raise awareness about workplace harassment and to honor the memory of those who have been lost to it. I'm nervous as I step up to the podium, my hands shaking and my heart pounding in my chest. But as I look out at the crowd, at the faces of the survivors and the allies and the advocates, I feel a sense of strength and purpose washing over me. Thank you all for being here today. I begin, my voice trembling slightly. We are gathered here to honor the memory of my daughter Lila and all those who have suffered at the hands of workplace abusers. I take a deep breath, fighting back the tears that threaten to overwhelm me. Lila was a bright, beautiful young woman with her whole life ahead of her, but that life was cut short by a man who saw her as nothing more than an object to be used and discarded. I see heads nodding in the audience, faces etched with pain and understanding. But Lila's story is not unique. Every day, countless women and men are subjected to harassment, abuse, and discrimination in the workplace, and far too often their stories go untold and their suffering goes unacknowledged. I pause, letting my words sink in. But today, we say no more. Today, we stand together and we demand change. We demand a world where every person can go to work without fear of being harassed or abused, where every person is treated with dignity and respect. The crowd erupts in applause, and I feel a surge of energy coursing through me. The Lila Fraser Foundation is dedicated to making that world a reality. We will not rest until every workplace is safe and every person is free from abuse and harassment. I look out at the sea of faces, at the survivors and the allies and the advocates, and I feel a sense of hope and determination washing over me. Together, we can create a world where no one has to suffer in silence, where no one has to live in fear. Together, we can build a better future for all of us. As I step down from the podium, I'm surrounded by people who want to share their stories, who want to offer their support and their solidarity. And in that moment, I realize that this is what Lila's legacy will be. Not just the story of her tragedy, but the story of how we came together to create something beautiful out of the ashes of our grief. It's a long road ahead, and there will be challenges and setbacks along the way. But I know that with the support of this community, with the strength and the courage of the survivors and the allies and the advocates, we can do anything. And as I look up at the sky, at the stars twinkling in the distance, I feel Lila's presence all around me, guiding me forward, giving me the strength to keep going. "I love you, baby girl," I whisper, my heart full of grief and love and hope. And I promise I will never stop fighting for you.